So motivation is the most important thing you can have to actually succeed at learning a language. And I want to offer a few different perspectives on motivation and some maybe critiques and hard truths that I think a lot of people delude themselves with. Maybe I can kind of dismiss some of that. So what, like, let me open with a bit of an anecdote that I noticed when I was learning Chinese. I started learning Chinese in 2007 or 2006 or 2007. And back then there was this big narrative, and I would say this is still more or less the case. I can't speak like exactly to what it's like because I haven't been talking to people like this anymore at my age. But like when I was that age in college, there was always a type of guy. It was usually a guy that you would meet, and he would be like a business major. He might be in a fraternity. The word my friends and I would use would just usually be douchey. It would usually be kind of a douchey guy. But it didn't have to be a douchey guy. Sometimes it would be more of like a boring guy is what I would say. But you would talk to, and you'd run into them in your Chinese classes, and you'd talk to them, and you'd be like, why are you here? Like, why are you learning Chinese? And not to be a dick. Like, I wasn't like, why are you here? More just like making conversation. And they would say something like, oh, well, China's economy is on the rise. Like they wouldn't exactly say it like that, but it was like this whole, like, according to the business world, China's going to be a really important market. And so I'm learning Chinese to improve my business prospects or whatever. And I won't say that I never saw a guy like that actually get good at Chinese. That's not true. I had one of my coworkers in China was one of those douchey frat guys, and I got along with him pretty okay. We did have a falling out at the end of the year. I won't go into that, but I got along with him okay, even though I kind of thought of him as a douchey frat guy. And like his brother died because his brother hazed himself to death when he was he had to leave China for a while because his brother went so hard at his hazing ritual that he died in the same fraternity that the guy was in. Like, I don't know. I'm very anti-fraternity. I just think they're the stupidest thing. So anyway, this guy that I knew in China was pretty good at Chinese, and he ended up living there a really long time and getting good at it. And the reason he actually did that was because his motivation I didn't meet him before he was in China. I didn't meet him before he spoke any Chinese. But my impression from knowing him was that as the kind of douchey frat guy who likes business, he was very good at being charismatic and making connections with people. He was also very attractive. He was like 6'3", high cheekbones, blonde. He did some modeling in China and stuff. And so that obviously helps. But really the thing that I think kept him there and made it so that he succeeded at Chinese was that he had a lot of Chinese friends, and he was motivated to really like build those connections and find more connections all the time, meet new people, be like, oh, my friend so-and-so, I want them to introduce me to these other people. And it wasn't necessarily always a transactional desire of like, I want to meet them so I can make money off of them. But those types of people, usually it goes somewhat hand in hand. Like, well, I value the connections, I value the friendship, but friendships are also valuable economically. And that's kind of how I think he looked at things. But anyway, like, it was for him, he found his motivation. But these guys that I would meet in college, in my like Chinese first few semesters of Chinese, because frankly, by the fourth semester of Chinese, none of these guys were ever left. They were all gone. They would be like, oh, I'm learning because I want to do business in China. That was like, they just want to do business in China. And so these types of people like never made it because their motivation wasn't good enough. Okay, yes, I want to do business in China. However, I hate learning Chinese. Like, I have this end goal that 3 years from now, I want to be the guy at my company who gets sent to China because he speaks Chinese. But right now, as the guy in college, I don't want to have to study this stuff because it's too hard and I'm not good at it. And I don't like it and I don't get it. It is the impression I got from most of these people. Now, another, let's say, entirely different subset of people. Let's talk about the anime people, the otaku. They oftentimes want to learn Japanese because they want to read manga and watch anime in the native language. And I won't make fun of that too much because one of the main reason I started learning Korean is I really like Korean dramas, and I wanted, I'm a language nerd, so it's hard to compare that, but I decided that was a good enough reason to learn Korean. I've always been interested in it, but that was kind of the motivator that pushed me over the edge with Korean, was like, okay, I have a thing that I really like watching anyway, and I watch it with English subtitles, and I'm gonna do it anyway. Whether or not I learn Korean, I'm gonna keep watching it, so I might as well learn it. It gave me a good reason to be motivated. But a lot of the anime people, their motivation is they want to watch anime, but they also usually have like this vague, like, I want to go to Japan because in Japan, I won't be a nerd. Everyone will be like, oh, you're cool because you like anime. There's that big stereotype about the otaku that wants to go to Japan because that's his true place that will accept him, and then usually some of those people do get pretty good, but I would say most of them end up giving up because ultimately they realize they don't like doing the work. They don't actually like learning the romantic idea of being good at Japanese is a nice idea to have, but when it comes to having to work on it multiple times every day for many years, they're not that motivated. The potential, this reward in their head, the down the line reward, is not worth the daily grind, and they give up. So what worked for me, in a sense, with Chinese was that from as soon as I started learning Chinese, I knew I was going to go live there. I didn't know exactly how I was going to, but I knew for certain that I would do it, and I did. And so for me, part of it was that, like, I knew I could do it, but I also really liked learning. I loved learning the language. It was my hobby from the moment I started learning it to the moment I landed in China. My main hobby was learning Chinese. Beyond all other hobbies, that was what I wanted to do the most. And so that's why I was able to learn it. That's why I was able to land in China already speaking Chinese and not having to speak any English, because I loved to do it, and it motivated itself. And seeing myself get better, understanding more, being able to write more, being able to read more, was just a self-perpetuating feedback loop that further motivated me. And on the other end of that, when I was about halfway through my time in China and I started to really get pissed off by the country, that in the exact same manner killed my motivation and made me want to just stop working on it. But that's kind of another topic, but it's worth mentioning. So I noticed like a lot of people on Reddit posting these threads asking for advice, and it's frustrating. It's one of the main reasons I'm even making this channel is that I have I always wish I had just been able to be a teacher of some kind. I've taught on and off throughout my life, but the only time I was a full-time teacher was when I was living in China, working as an English teacher. And for whatever it is about me, when I see people learning inefficiently, when I see people approaching the learning process with a really incorrect attitude, with a really bad plan, I have this just really strong urge to just jump in and be like, dude, like, let me help you. You got this all wrong. Let me help you. And maybe maybe I can start doing that. I mean, I'm not motivated by money on YouTube. Like, I just want to be able to have like a platform to help people, I guess. And so I see these Reddit posts, and it's like, Reddit, it's really hard on Reddit because I feel the urge to reply to every time I see one of these, but I just know like how hopeless it is in most cases. Like, most people aren't going to see my response unless it gets like heavily upvoted. No one's going to really see it. And generally, like, you can give somebody the one-time advice and they're probably, it's not going to move the needle. Like, you would really need to interact with them on a longer basis to really help them. And that's usually just not possible. But so some of the things I see people saying that, just as an example, that make me think like, man, you're just on the wrong path. Like, I'll see people say, what apps should I get? I already have 2 textbooks. I'm looking for what apps I can use. And I'm just thinking like, why? Well, let me tell you what alarm bells trigger when I hear somebody say something like that. If you already have a textbook, like, and I don't want to talk too much about my own situation, but I have 1 Korean textbook, and never once since I've started with this, like, ever since I gave up on comprehensive input and just started using the textbook, never once have I said to myself, what other apps should I get? Because, you know why? Because I'm just using the textbook. I'm going through the textbook. The textbook is designed such that it's all you need. And obviously I don't mean it's all you need to like achieve native level Korean, but as somebody who started learning Korean a few months ago, why do I need anything other than the integrated Korean 1? What would I need beyond that? Any moment I decide I want to work on Korean, I've got that textbook. I go work on the dialogues that I'm already doing. I build sentences from the chapters that I've already learned. I don't need an additional bauble. I don't need a shining bauble to distract me from my textbook. If I'm going to learn, I go to my textbook. Or I watch, I mentioned already, I watch a bunch of Korean dramas. That gives me some input. And if I really wanted to do the extra mile, maybe I would turn the subtitle. I would have another one I watch every day with the subtitles off. If I had the extra time, I would probably do that, but I don't. I've decided the most efficient use of my time is what I outlined in the previous video, doing the dialogues and building sentences. And then watching dramas is something that I'm motivated to do anyway. And realistically, you could say, oh, well, instead of watching dramas with English subtitles, you should. But realistically, I don't have the motivation. I wouldn't sit, if I'm going to watch 3 hours of a drama, binging it one night, I wouldn't sit there for 3 hours doing the dialogue over and over. I just wouldn't do that. So, but I'm never looking for an additional app. And that's not to say like when you reach a more, like for Chinese, I don't have a textbook right now. I have, I am kind of looking around for more things. What's a good YouTube channel to subscribe to? What's a good podcast I could listen to? What's a good drama I could watch without subtitles? What's another kind of thing I could do with my teacher? What teacher should I have? That's more of an intermediate to advanced problem, is to start looking for additional sources of things to learn with. But as a beginner, let me put it this way. When you reach an intermediate level, it's like you're going up a tree or something and the branches start happening and you're like, okay, well, where do I want to focus? Do I want to get better at reading? Do I want to read literature? Do I want to read like manga? Do I want to be really good at just talking to people at a conversational level? As you go up that tree, you have more realistic options about what you want your focus to be. As a beginner, like, think of this as a very liberating idea, a very liberating thought you can have. As a beginner, you don't need to make any decisions. You don't have to stress yourself about what should I learn, what method should I use, what apps should I get, which book should I use. That doesn't, you're free of that stress. You shouldn't be ever spending time thinking about that, because you need to learn the basics. The basics are the basics. They're on the bottom. They're at the bottom of the tree. And the bottom of the tree, there's no branches. You just need to get up to the branches, and then you can start worrying about what to do. But at the level I'm at in Korean, I don't think it even matters which textbook. As long as the textbook has like a good dialogue structure or whatever, that's what and as long as I'm getting some input, I need to learn the basic particles. I need to learn the conjugations. I need to learn the very common vocab, the most common words, the most common verbs, the most common nouns, the words that you call people depending on their age and social status and what all that stuff. And that's important in Korean. You need to learn that. You need to know when to conjugate for which one. You need to learn adverbs, basic adverbs, numbers. You can't get it. There's no getting around that. You need to, every single beginner needs to learn that stuff. Like in Chinese, every beginner needs to learn the tones. So there's no like, the beginner shouldn't be thinking about, do I want to focus on tones or do I want to focus on vocab? No, you're a beginner. You need to do all of that stuff. And the textbook is very, like I said, liberating. What a textbook represents is people who have studied this for a really long time, the pedagogy of all of this, linguistics, teaching. They have experience in the classroom. They have experience doing research in classrooms. They have designed a setup to efficiently deliver you exactly what you need to know as a beginner. That's it. You're free. That's all you need to do. Just sit down and do it. And when I see the people on Reddit, when I read between the lines of what app should I use, what I'm actually hearing is, I have a textbook, but it's hard and I'm getting bored and I'm trying to find another flashy thing to make me feel excited like I did when I first started learning this. When I first was excited by the idea of, I'm going to learn Korean, I'm going to learn Chinese, I'm going to learn Spanish. And I was really excited at the idea of that. But then when the rubber met the road and I had to do work every day, I'm getting really bored. And so I'm trying to find a way to jump the tree or whatever, but you can't. You need the base. You need to build out the base. You need to have all those basics down before you even need to worry about where to go from there, where to focus, which branches to look at. You're on the bottom of the tree trunk, man. You need to just do it. And you're looking for an out. You're looking for somebody to tell you, oh, actually there is this one weird trick, and it's a subscription. So you pay $20 a month, and this will get you out of having to be bored and doing the work, and it will be fun again, and then you'll learn really fast. It's not going to happen. It's a lie. It's a pipe dream. It's a scam. And it's what I hate about stuff like Duolingo. I used to always complain about Rosetta Stone back when that was really popular, because ultimately what those things are, they represent like a gamified product. They, at one hand, it represents a product. Like a textbook is the most unflashy thing. I buy a used textbook for $15 or something on Amazon, and then that's all I'm going to have for 6 months. That's not exciting. Whereas I'm going to get this subscription, I'm going to buy this product, and I'm going to have like an account and points, and I'm going to get badges and shit. But you know what I'm not going to get is I'm not going to get any reasonable like structure. And I know Duolingo has some kind of structure to it, but like it's really just like a glorified like flashcard machine of giving you sentences, and it's making you feel like it's more fun and more easy than a textbook, but it's actually making things harder for you, and you're just going to be stuck at the bottom of the tree for way longer when you learn like that. So yeah, that's all I have to say.